We are now on page 29 of your working file, the subject of alignment. Now I know I say this over and over again, but this is one of those things you really have to learn. And because you are just going to use it all of the time, I mean simple things like this lining up, objects and spacing them perfectly apart and doing it quickly and easily. You really do need to know this. So we are going to quickly look at alignment. And the next one will be spacing, how to, achieve this nice and even spacing between objects, etc. There are a number of keyboard shortcuts, and I want you to know that this is how I personally work using these keyboard shortcuts. But I'm going to show you both ways, okay? Now if I select a group of objects like this, I can easily, quickly use one of these keyboard shortcuts, or on the property bar will become available the Align and Distribute button. Okay, click this option here, and what you'll find is under the Alignment tab. Don't go to the Distribute yet, we are going to learn that in our next lesson. Under the Alignment tab, we have got really 6 options, and we can have combinations. For example, I can click Top, and I can click Center, and then I can click Apply. But let's just go one at the time for the moment. If I click Top, you will notice that every object on its top side has aligned together. If I click Center, they are now all aligned through the center and of course the bottom. The same thing. If I unselect that and I select Center that way, they are now all centered. The question is though, just Control Z, I am doing a little back, what are they aligning to? And this is the important part that a lot of people don't realize. There are 2 ways of aligning. The object, that is at the bottom of the stacking order, and in this case it's actually the red square. In other words, that's the first object that I created. If, for example, and let me just quickly do that again for you, I will select all of those objects for you, and I will go to T for top, or I could do this one here. So T on my keyboard. They have all aligned to the top of pink square. Control Z to undo that. Let's say that I don't want them to be aligned to the object that's on the bottom. There is a way of doing this. Select all of your objects. Now finger on Shift key and deselect the one you want them to be aligned to. So deselect. As you can see, a little note disappears. Keep your finger on Shift and select that again. Let me work that for you correctly. The last object selected, okay, becomes the anchor point if you like, or becomes the point of origin to which everything will then be aligned, the last object selected. So what are the 2 options? The one that is there on the bottom of the stacking order, or the last object you select. Again, finger on Shift, and if I just select them all one at the time like this, and I will select the green one last, that now becomes my anchor point or my point of origin. Now if I click Top, they all align to the top. Control Z. Let's click Center. They have all aligned to the center of that object. Okay, now I am going to close this down and just quickly work with all the keyboard shortcuts. So again, select all of the objects here and then finger on Shift, deselect and reselect that purple one, and then L on my keyboard. They have all aligned to the left-hand side. Can you see that? Okay. Now see, I will do that again. Select everything. I am going to align to my green one. So finger on Shift, deselect and select C on my keyboard. They have all aligned center. Let me bring that to the top layer. So I am going to do it on the top of the stacking order, I should say. Shift, page up, bring it to the top, and again select everything. Finger on Shift, deselect and reselect, and then C. I just wanted you to be able to see it, so I am sitting on the top. Control Z, undo. Now if, for example, I were to, let's say if I right-click on that object and I go to Order and then I go behind that object, that now is on the bottom layer, isn't it? Or I could have go a shift page down as we have learned previously. Select all of these objects, and remember that's from the bottom layer. So this time we are going to select tops, so they will all be aligned across the top of those objects. So T, see how they are aligning to the top? That would just come straight down and aligned to the top. Now that I have aligned to the top, I could do C, so I have aligned to the top, and now I have also aligned to the center of that object. Can you see how that's working? It's kind of cool, isn't it? Let's just select everything again. And remember, this subject is now on the bottom of the stacking order, so I am going to select if horizontal center. So in other words, it's going through aligned through the center of that object. So A on my keyboard with a line through the center there. Again, if I hit C now, that aligned perfectly center. So I have done an A and I have done C. So everything is perfectly centered to the object on the bottom of the stacking order. Okay, the bottom one is obviously obvious. I will do this and I will deselect the green, reselect and go with B for bottom, and I have aligned to the bottom there. Now finally, the last thing I want to show you is P for page. Now if you select all of your objects and then hit P, they will align perfectly center to your page. Alright? And as you can see, that's my page there. Probably a little difficult with a setup, but that is center of my page. When you have got an A4 page up or something like that, and you keep P, it will all go to the center. I oftentimes will have a whole lot of objects, and for example, all those objects, I will group them together once I have done my design. Hit P, just so it's all perfectly center on my page. I would like for you to go ahead now, play with what you have just seen, try all the keyboard shortcuts. Do have a little bit of a play with this as well, and once you do, I haven't really gone into some of the other areas of this, but once you do, move on, and then we are going to look at distribute, and then we will finish off our business card.